So I hope now we have digested the meal and we are ready for the another kind of, I would say, knowledge session, the journey today that we have started in the morning. So some of you probably already know about Postgres, or should I say most of you? Anyone not heard Postgres before coming to this session? All right, good to know. So this is basically the open source software, open source database particularly, and we as a company, Enterprise DB, right, offer the entire software, support and services. So when I say open source, right, there is a community out there who builds the actually software. So what is the role of EDB, right? Why are we in picture? Think about the Linux, right? How many flavors of Linux do we have in the market? Few, right? Well, many, right? And each one of them basically brings their own value add on top of what community offers. And that is exactly what we do as far as the database world is concerned, and that is Postgres. And our slogan is like, power to Postgres. So absolutely anything we do is going to be around Postgres. We're going to share some of the details today, right, that particularly in terms of the financial services, which is what the event is today in the BFSI sector. All right, so this is the quick agenda, right? We all have heard about open source software, OSS, right? So we'll talk about that, how it works in the Postgres, particularly in the financial services. There's Government of India's policy as well. Not sure if you guys are aware about that. There is a very significant policy in terms of how Government of India now basically honors and accepts, rather promotes the open source software for many reasons, right? So one of the things which comes to everybody's mind is security, right? What about the security of the open source software? Please be assured, the open source, right, is one of the most strongest secure software out there, right, to make sure that your business critical applications are very, very secure, right? And yeah, mission critical applications, banking, core banking is some of them, right? And how EDB, right, Enterprise DB, as a company can help you in your journey, right, as far as the database world or the data store world is concerned. All right, so you might be thinking, I'm all good today. I have, one or the other databases out there, all working fine. Why should I change? What is the need for me? I have enough money, right? Probably the CEO, the investor doesn't really bother, right? If I even invest more, so why should I change? Right? Innovation is certainly one of the reasons, innovations. How many of you know that serializable snapshot isolation, right? Which is basically helps in concurrent transaction consistency. That is innovated by Postgres. How many of you know that k-nearest index algorithm, which helps in the text search in the database, is invented by Postgres, right? So like that, we have just list growing in terms of the innovations. And it is all possible because of it is open source. Today, I was meeting customer this morning, and he says that, I want so-and-so feature. I told him, right, yes, you ask for this and your wish might come true in a week, right? That is the power of open source. Somebody hears that requirement, just goes and implements it. Just goes and implements it because the entire source code is available at their disposal. They can just go and write their code whatever you want. There is nothing that somebody has to go and approve it. No, I mean, of course, there is a committers, there are contributors. They have to, of course, take certain things into account, but that is the power of open source, right? So drivers for change, you want to be competitive in the market, right? Investing money, pulling in the money in the existing infrastructure probably may not give you that advantage, right? You want to have, your agility. How fast you want to do the development? There is a tool you want out there, right? Somebody is there to help you actually just in the community and the companies like us, right, who supports, right? Technology based innovations, right? That is something that we do. Cost reduction, that is the biggest factor. If I ask you this question that how many of you are say that I have ample money all the time to actually invest in my IT, how many of you will say? Probably none, right? There is a limit of everything, right? And we can think about that. I already am running with certain databases today. Why should I go for this? We can have a discussion on that how can you save money on that? How can we help you rather, reduce your cost? So, to drive this change, we have certain initiatives, right? We see, how do we see like application modernization? We talked about super apps. This is one of the examples, right? The go-to, for example, right? That's nothing but kind of application modernization. And all of these are sitting in a huge pile of data. Right? I think my fellow speakers basically made my talk a little easier by saying that, crash. How do I ensure that my application doesn't crash? Yeah, there are multiple stacks of the application until you come actually, starting from OS. Well, let's talk about hardware drivers as well, right? Then your OS, then your databases and whatnot. Each of these layers really need to ensure that it is reliable, it is robust, including from the database, which is your heart of pretty much everything that you do around your business, right? So application modernization is what we, that could be one of the reasons that you might be looking for the change, right? And so on. I mean, there's too much to talk about this. You can go through that. But the bottom line is that there is certainly that you would be thinking, why should I change? And you got to have one or the more reasons that why you should be looking for change from your current infrastructure to probably more modern infrastructure. And that is where implications on the technology, cloud, right? How many of you probably about maybe 15 years back thought about cloud is going to be so popular and so successful today? And everybody today talks about the cloud that, I have to do some small POC, right? Earlier I know that I used to ask for, I need a machine, right? I need some hardware, I need some OS, I need some compilers. I need something, I need some editor, right? And it's just that even if you get the machine to get those softwares, it used to be nightmares, right? You really have to have provision for at least a quarter, right? And here we are talking about that, in just fingertips, right? Just few minutes you have entire, the software and the hardware stack at your disposal. That's the innovation that you're talking about. That's the, technology that we're talking about, right? All right, so data again, right? Data is very, very important. There's nothing new. I'm not talking new in this slide, by the way. Right? But important thing is that please do treat database your strategic asset, right? We often see that it's working. At times, honestly, we don't know that database is behind the scene and it's working, right? That is what the power of at times databases are, and so the Postgres, right? So it is very, very important. It's a new digital world that we are living in, right? And we have to be staying relevant. Again, yesterday I was talking to one of the customers, and they say that we have insurance application, and it is running on COBOL. Right? It's just a COBOL. So I just asked, why do you want to change? Right? I mean, you're working fine. Right? He said that they have to add some new features, and there is hardly any skill available for the COBOL. Right? But it works. It just works for me. Right? Now think about that. Now, you 5 years down the line, probably if they don't change, even let's say they're already losing business, if you ask me, right? Because of certain features not being available on their platform. Right? And so you have to be staying relevant. Microservices, we talk about the microservices architecture. Why? Right? There are a lot of apps today in our mobile app, right? And within that app itself, each one of them have their own, separate modules, payment, card processing, and so on. Just ample amount, right? Each one of them, even if it fails, or if I need to upgrade, right? There is a very little work that I have to do, right? Most of the time, after a couple of days, if you open your app, right, it might say you need upgrade, you need update. Why? Right? Either there is a new feature, or maybe behind the scene, we got to know about some security issue, or there's something that needs update, right? Which would have not been possible in the kind of if you're not, staying relevant to the technology. All right. So what we're talking about, you have your core database platform already running. As I said, some of you sitting in this room, I know that you guys are already on Postgres. Some of you are not, right? So how do you, you might be thinking that, why should I go for open source? As I said that, right? I'm already running, right? And we'll find the reason. And you might be also skeptical saying, Postgres, open source, right? Look at the numbers. Consistently over years that it has been #1 database in the open source world, right? Not just 1 year. It is #1. Again, it is from the analyst out there, not from the EDB. This doesn't come from us, right? This comes from the research firms out there, right? And Postgres has been awarded #1 year over year for innovations, for the reliability, for the availability, the solutions that we offer. All right, so this is another slide where I was giving an example of Linux. 20 years back, how many of, if somebody would have come and saying that, go with Linux, right? What is this, why should I need and all that stuff, right? I have already, our sponsors today is HP, right? They're very strong, HP UX, HP multiple architectures based OS, AIX, Solaris, DEC, whatnot, SCO, whatnot. I mean, they're just ample, right? Why should I go for something which is like open source? Today, can you think about your IT infrastructure without one or the other flavors of Linux? No, I don't think so. Each one of us sitting here, our organization is certainly running on Linux, right? That is where we have gone in last 2 decades. Think about this slide, right? I think I would say about 2021 is a kind of an inflection point from the proprietary to the open source. And you see the graph is what we see in the future, right? The open source softwares just growing, right? And look at the commercial licenses. Why? There are many factors: the innovations, the trust, the robustness of the software that open source world is building is just amazing, right? So if you're not part of that journey today in terms of open source, irrespective of, of course, open source is open source, and we are, of course, the Postgres one. If you're not part of that journey, please be right away, right? Before it is too late, right? I mean, again, as I said, that we talk about today Linux and Linux and Linux. That is one of the reasons. Coming back to the financial services one, right? There are many, many applications. And in all of these applications, we have use cases whereas EDB Postgres have been deployed very, very successfully worldwide. And there is a slide out there. We'll talk about it. But look at that, retail banking, right? The cards and payments, today UPI. A lot of our UPI application in India, by the way, runs even on Postgres. And at times, customers come to us saying that, you know what, I've been using Postgres community version for many, many years. 3 days back, one of the customers comes saying that I have 80 TB of data on community Postgres. So I said, yeah, you're running fine. What do we need? He said that now performance is an issue because I'm growing my business and it just became unmanageable. I have a single instance of these. So can you help us? Look at that. I mean, the robustness, you may not need support today, right? But when you go to production and when you think there is a, expert advice needed, certainly we are out there, right? And I mean, you can go and explore Postgres your own. You don't have to pay to anybody, right, for that matter, community versions, right? But when you are going for production and all, this is where we come into the picture, right? So this is just to give an example like capital markets, insurance, and pretty much all horizontals into risk management, right? Your doc management, your HR management, anything that you talk about, right? Postgres is certainly, one of your choices should be rather, I would say. Look at the rise of the open source again. In 2019, the latest one, right? IBM bought Red Hat for 34 billion. Honestly, at that point, I was thinking what IBM is doing. And I come with a very, very strong IBM background, right, before joining the EDB. So I was just thinking what Mr. Arvind Krishna is doing. So, well, you know why he's doing that. More than that, look at the emergence of FinOS, right? FinTech Open Source Foundation. Not sure if you guys have heard about this before. But look at that. Please go and explore this website. They are promoting the open source in financial world. And they are giving you all kinds of support that you need. Right? So FinOS is something that certainly you want to go and explore. As I said, the Government of India's policy, I have just 3 minutes left, right? And Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, they have very clear policy actually. It's there for a long time. I don't know how many of us follows, but it says, adopt open standards and promote open source and open technologies. Why do you want to do that? Because they want to drive framework for rapid and effective adoption of open source, right? They say that long-term perspective, they are thinking about the long-term perspective, right? They don't want any vendor lock-ins. And they're saying reduce the total cost of ownership. The TCO is very, very important part here when government firms are looking. And this is applicable for all central and state governments. So the point here is that look at the Government of India even. The globally, Postgres have been adopted in all the sectors, including BFSI. Now, Government of India is also saying that, look, I trust, right? I trust open source, right? So that should give us enough confidence. And some of you are probably here in the public sector banks and other firms would know that how important it is for you to kind of adopt the Postgres. And you are adopting, by the way. All right. So again, I'll give back to the example of crash, right? You don't want crash. It's not only the business load, but it's the user experience, right? And that basically comes back as your business loss. Reliability. So I call it basically PASS. So your performance is missing, right? I call it basically PASS. So performance, reliability, scalability, security, and availability. So A is missing here, right? So reliability in terms of you should not see crash, right? There are multiple layers of robustness you need, including from the database. It should not crash. Even if it crashes, how do you ensure that you have another instance running peacefully, right? And that is where we talk about high availability. And again, my fellow speaker talked about 5 nines. So she made my job easier, that how important it is. Like 5 nines is just few seconds. If you calculate, if you do the math, it's just less than 5 minutes in a complete year. that you see downtime for your business. Less than 5 minutes. That's what it means by five nines, by the way. Performance is very important, right? In today's world, the TPS requirement, transaction per second, is one of the certainly asks, saying that what do you do? How many writes can I have? How many reads can I have? Right? Can I have redundancy at that level as well? Scalability. Today one of the credit agency in India, right? During the festival times, actually they come back saying that there is an extra load. What do we do? Scalability, right? Can I increase my number of nodes and make your business probably respond on time? That's where we're talking about thousands of nodes being spawned for your business needs. Security. Today is 17th. So 14th Feb, we announced ePass version 15, right? And which comes with the TDE, transparent data encryption, which is also called encryption at rest. That is one of the most secure features. Otherwise, you used to do the disk encryption. Today, you don't have to do that now, right? With this feature, you can encrypt your data on the disk itself. All right, time up. So how can we help you, right? So as we said that we are expert in this field, I'll just talk about this slide particularly. Can I have a couple of minutes, please? Just 1 minute. All right. So we have 1,500 plus customers out there in the worldwide. We operate in 79 countries. 18 years of Postgres experience, and our logo, as I said, is power to Postgres, right? 3 out of 7 Postgres core committees from EDB, right? And there are 7 committers, right? And 40 plus contributors. 30% of Postgres code in 2001 is contributed by EDB in the community. So when we say that we work on the community, we contribute back to the community what the innovation we do, right? And 30% of the code, which is our IP actually, contributed back to the community so that everybody else can use it, right? And that is what we're talking about. We have 300 plus dedicated engineers. So this is the kind of a similar, So this is how we can help, right? We have different flavors of databases. Community Postgres is something which you can go and opt yourself, but we can provide some certain support on that. And then you have extended servers, you have our advanced servers. Whereas, let's say if you have Oracle database, for example, right? So that is where we have a full Oracle compatibility with our ePass, the EDB Postgres advanced server. We have a pretty much full compatibility from Oracle. If you want to move from Oracle to, let's say, Postgres, right? You do not have to change much of your applications. Especially SQLs, probably you don't have to change any, right? And that is what. And the tools, we have a lot of tools. And it gets developed every other day because of being in open source, right? Your high availability, we have something called BDR, bidirectional replications. Bidirectional replications. All your nodes across your cluster are write only. All are master, right? And we have a what you call is a camel algorithm, commit at most once. That's another innovation that we have done. Commit at most once. We take care of all the conflicts in case if it arises from writing from multiple nodes, right? So that is the innovation that we have done in terms of being high available, 5 nines and even 6 nines at times, right? Various levels of support, remote DBA. We have a remote DBA support also. Let's say, for example, you don't have a DBA, right? We offer that remote DBA option as well. You can opt for that as well. All right, that's a similar one that we can help you in your journey. These are some of the logos. Again, you don't find many from India because it's not that, again, we don't have customers, but we're not authorized to use some of the logos, right? From the banking sectors, right? The insurance, technology, and telecom, pretty much everywhere we are. That's pretty much what I have. Thank you. And we have our booth right out there. There is a lucky draw running. So there is a 3 Amazon Eco Dots to be owned. So make sure that you participate there. Thank you.